television. We are joined here with Professor Dr. Haller and student Melanie Monnier.
Hello, I'm Melanie. I'm an elementary and special education major.
And I'm Dr. Haller, and I was an English major, and I teach English here, but I teach journalism as well as young adult literature, backgrounds to literature, British literature, and just literature.
What are you reading or even watching?
Well, one of the things that I'm watching right now is, well, it's going to come on in a couple weeks, is The Walking Dead. It's one of my favorite shows on TV. So I haven't been reading very much because I've been doing some composition papers, grading composition papers. So my reading hasn't been that good, but I've been rereading the Harry Potter series because I'm teaching my Harry Potter class right now.
Well, I've been reading a lot of special education articles, especially having to do with law and stuff like that, because that's the classes that I'm in. I just watched through all of Friends. And so now I'm kind of watching a few shows here and there, and I especially enjoy watching Orphan Black with a few of my friends. It's a very interesting show. Very interesting. I like Helena the best.
I don't remember her name, but the soccer mom one, she's my favorite.
Oh, Alice.
Yes, I love Alice.
I love her
to my
very much. I love when they took her husband and tied him up.
If you could have lunch with any author, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
C.S. Lewis, because he is the best. I would like him to be my godfather, but he's not because he is not alive.
Oh, that's true. Well, obviously, I would be Charlotte Bronte because she's the most important person who ever lived.
Not Jane Austen.
Oh, absolutely not Jane Austen. We would spend the whole lunch trying to plot ways to kill Jane Austen.
If we really wanted to talk about two very important authors, at least in our opinion, JRR Tolkien and J.K. Rowling, what part of The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit appealed to you the most in the book and then in the movie?
I think for the movie, the part that appealed to me the most was Viggo Mortensen as Aragorn. He's beautiful. So anything having to do with him appealed to me the most. As far as literary goes, I like that it followed the books so closely. That was really good. The books themselves, though, I really liked how, I don't really have a favorite part, but I like how they moved along so swiftly. I found like the slowest parts, I guess, were the parts with Sam and Frodo, and it was just the two of them. Oh, I love Sam. My son is named after him. I love him, but it's just that it moved really slowly. But I liked all the nice humor parts. I think were really good.
I actually feel the same way about Viggo Mortensen. He's great. Yes, 100%. If we were both, he's
gorgeous
Ellen.
man.
It's a rough time.
Exactly.
As far as the book goes, I loved The Hobbit because you could see the progression from it being a children's story to it started to become more adult as it went along, and I think that just shows a lot of growing in maturity and changing in ideas of where he started out with the book and where he ended up, and that led straight into what the Lord of the Rings series is, which is much more of an adult series.
So, in your opinion, why do you think Tolkien is important in the academic world?
Well, I think he is important in the academic world because he speaks to all. In literature, you should always put things in context. And so when you're talking about fantasy, there's very little context to go to because it's a fantasy. But what he did academically was create a world where we could contextualize it. And I think that that's really important to the academic community.
Such as just the whole fact that he created a world, and there are parts that are copied from Beowulf, like the dragon, Smaug, but he did it in such a way that it just flowed perfectly.
Mm-hmm. And I look at it more, it's not so much that he took from them, I think it's like a nice homage to the early literary culture.
Because he was a scholar of early Britain.
And linguistics. So, and then if you look at Beowulf, linguistically, it's amazing. It's fantastic.
Now, Tolkien wasn't a huge fan of allegory. In your opinion, does LOTR contain allegory?
That one's hard because I want to stick with what Tolkien says, but how can you not see allegory in Lord of the Rings? It's really, really difficult to not see it there. So I can see how he didn't intend it that way, but I somehow feel like it's still there.
What I think is that when anybody has strong beliefs, and from looking at kind of his history, I think that he has, strong beliefs about, about life and religion and all of that. I think that when you have that, it translates into your writing without you meaning it to. Kind of like you said, like it's not that he meant it to, but I think that the story will follow along with things that you believe, and you don't even need to mean to put it in there for it to be in there.
And even into World War II, there was just a lot of new elements within that really harken to what's going on in Germany during World War II. So.
Once upon a time, a great professor once told us, it doesn't matter what they meant when they wrote it, it matters how people respond to it.
Oh, that's so sweet. I wouldn't have said that. Yeah. More specifically, we're aware that you taught a class on the Lord of the Rings. What sort of things did you focus on?
Well, with that one, I wanted to make it into broader concepts. So we went into a lot of the history of Middle-earth, which a lot of people aren't familiar with if you've never read the Silmarillion. So we did a lot of background and historical information for Middle-earth. And then we also talked about racial elements within it, cultural elements within it, gendered elements within it. So we looked at the different races within within Middle-earth and talked about their place within Middle-earth and how, not looking at it allegorically, but how they kind of were paralleled to a lot of what was in modern society. So we did a lot of contextualization within our own world, which was really nice. And it's so interesting when you actually know the history of Middle-earth, where you can really see the depths of the characters and just how much they mean and their place in society, and the origination where the dwarves were supposed to be. Well, the elves were supposed to be the first ones to be born, but accidentally the dwarves were the first ones born, and then they were kind of pushed back and said, well, not yet. And then, then the elves come up, and that leads back really to why the elves and the dwarves have such an animosity towards each other, and you don't really know that unless you know the history behind it. You don't get that from just reading Lord of the Rings.
What drew you as a child to Lord of the Rings? Because you loved Lord of the Rings since
junior high. What drew me to it was, again, like the storyline, because I'm a sucker for a good story, and that was the big thing. Also, seeing the movies and seeing how well done the movies were made me want to read the books and see how it compared, because I've seen the Narnia movies and they are not as good as the books.
It's very close.
Not even close. And so I was wondering if it would be similar to Lord of the Rings. And I do think that the movies were well done, but the books are almost always better. So I can still appreciate the movies, unlike the
Speaking of C.S. Lewis, him and from, my Googling, I found out that him and JRR Tolkien had a bit of a feud. What do you think of that? Like, what was the feud?
I can only speak to that relating to the information that I learned in a biography written about C.S. Lewis by his stepson. It's called Jack's Life by Douglas Gresham. Great book. I'll let you borrow it. And what he said, and this could be skewed because he was his stepson, was that when C.S. Lewis was writing the Narnia series, J.R.R. Tolkien didn't really like the way that C.S. Lewis was, like the way that he was writing in the different types of sentient beings in that book. And so he didn't encourage him to get them published and whatnot. And what it said later was that J.R.R. Tolkien, when he was writing the Lord of the Rings books and he was struggling to get them published, then C.S. Lewis he didn't do the same thing. He saw that it was good and would encourage him. So I don't know about anything else that was happening, but I know that they were in the same book club, and if you're in the same book club and you don't have the same ideas, there's going to be a little bit of conflict. But I think for the most part, you can tell by their writing styles that they're both very good, and they're even a little bit similar sometimes. So.
Anything else about J.R.R. Tolkien, Rachel?
Well, I know my person, I'll say that later, but do you think the LOTR movies should be remade? Particularly, I'm pointing at the last.
Why just the last Hobbit? Why not all of them?
Okay, all of them. People, like,
I think the Lord of the Rings movies should just be left alone. I think they're great as they stand. They should be great. But the Hobbit, there's not one of them. And then you're talking about appreciating Narnia. I think that sometimes you need to look at them as separate from the book, to be able to appreciate them. And even looking at the Hobbit separately from the book, I still cannot appreciate it. To me, it was just like watching an amusement park ride on the screen, and it was a total sellout. And I honestly feel that the director felt that, people are going to go see it no matter what I do, so I might as well just do whatever I want. And that was really irritating. And so very disrespectful, I think, to the true fans of The Hobbit.
and they even added in a character that became
I was very
A whole
upset.
love triangle. Yes, they did. It was very
Yes. When they added in that character, and I knew who, when she ended up dating, was it really? When we started dating one of the twins, I knew it was going to be the one that died, and I was so upset. As soon as I saw her, I was like, no, go away.
I mean, and they even brought back Orlando. I mean, they asked Vigo to come in, and he was like, I would have been like 5 when this happened, so there's no way. Historically, I wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
But then Orlando Bloom's like, sure, I'll do it. And so he went, but he's not even supposed to be there. They just had to do the love train. It just made me sick.
I love Legolas.
They had to miss. I knew I'd like him too, but I just wish he wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't supposed to be there.
Now, speaking of Legolas, do you think that it counts if he killed that entire elephant and killed all the people? Does that count as one, or does that count as many people that were on it?
You're talking about what Gimli and he were
Yeah,
talking
they
about?
had a sword to settle.
I think it counts individually. I did. I think Gimli was, I think it counts individually.
I also think it did. I think that Gimli was being a bit of a sore loser because he's got short, stubby legs. But
What about
he
for
is,
people?
you're taller than Gimli. Thanks. You're welcome. So he was just upset that he couldn't scale an elephant. But Gimli was a very, very good fighter in his own right. So I think that in the end, they probably helped.
And this is a hard-hitting question.
No.
Who would win in a rap battle? Gandalf or Dumbledore?